Hello, everyone, and welcome to Fishin, the podcast where we discuss Pioneer's most competitive tribe and help the whole community become better Merfolk players. I'm Kody, one of the co-hosts of the show, and not Kody Smith on Twitter. And my co-host who's here with me today is...
Hello, everybody. I am Dorian. You can find me on Twitter at Crinklebiscuit with a K.
And our other co-host Matt he's pioneering a new trail through what we call grad school, and so he's working on that. And but you can find him on Twitter as MatthewCotto8.
Yep. He was telling me a little while ago he was taking a wagon train a little bit past the Utah Salt Desert. Also, I'm hoping they do okay. With it getting close to winter, I hope they don't get stuck out there.
It was very cold today here in Oklahoma. I'm sure in many parts of the southern United States it was actually very chilly. I did have to break out, my little gloves and my beanie, and it really felt like if I was a pioneerman, like I would be dead, I think. Who knows? I've never been a pioneer person myself, so I don't know how well I would actually fare. I think maybe we should have saved the pioneer intro for this episode because they would make more sense, but mistakes were made.
Nah, no mistakes were made. No, we still have everyone surviving.
Yeah. So remember that you can thank you for listening. For being a loyal listener. I do appreciate all that you, our listeners, do for us, talking to us in the Discord, the Wanderwine Hub, which is super cool. And then on top of that, telling your friends that also play Merfolk and directing them to our YouTube channel, our Instagram, all that fun stuff. Just keep on doing that, being cool. Make sure to check out patreon.com/fishcastmtg. Our server costs are about to go up because we've literally been podcasting for like over 100 hours. I think we hit 150 hours or something like that. So we've hit the upper limits of our current pricing plan. So if you would like to help us continue podcasting, $2 a month is a really good entry point. You get the show a few days early and ad free. You get to support us. Get into the patrons only areas of the Discord. There's so many rewards. I can't even name them all. It's kind of insane. And once I get the rest of my tokens back from my soon-to-be ex-wife, I will be able to mail those out to all you fine patrons that deserve them. So yes, you will get your tokens shortly. I promise. Maybe. We don't have a new patron this week, so I picked the random Merfolk, and so we are going with random Merfolk 128, which is Marrow Levitator. It's 3 and a blue for a 2/3 Merfolk wizard. There's a lot of Merfolk wizards, but this one, the art is pretty great on this card, I think. It has, and it's a 2/3. I don't remember if I said that, but it has tap. Target creature gains flying until end of turn. Whenever you play a blue spell, you may untap Marrow Levitator.
This is a card from like one of my favorite blocks and all. The other half of Laurelwyn Morningtide, which was Shadowmoor Eventide block. Well, this one specifically out of Eventide, but it was a huge blast playing with these kind of cards in Limited and all, because you could do a bunch of crazy shenanigans with this guy's triggered ability, like Cerulean Wisps, where it's a single blue mana. You target creature becomes blue, and then you get to untap it and all. So you could like basically tap to give one creature flying, having evasion, cast Cerulean Wisps to untap it, tap it to give another creature flying, and then you get to untap it again so you could tap a third time and then give a third creature flying if you had, that impressive of a board state to get over board stalls. It ended a few games early to my benefit and to my, depression, I guess.
It's just that
I was
had
on
it
the
done
winning.
to you.
Yeah, I was on the winning and losing end multiple times with this kind of card, and in Shadowmoor Eventide Limited, but it was still no less fun because it's, a Merfolk. I was getting to play Merfolk in my favorite, standard format at the time.
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
it looks like it's a pretty cool limited card. I just don't see this being used in very much of any other format. I think I've said that at least 17,000 times. Like probably in at least 7/8 of all of our random Merfolk. Like it's fine and limited, and that's it.
Yep. The one of the funnier things I saw was at a table next to me where it was this guy giving, I think, a Primal Crux. It was like the 6 green mana that got +X, or like where its power and toughness was equal to the number of green mana symbols in the mana costs of permanents you controlled. And all. So he just gave that thing flying, and it was already a 6/6 on its own, and I think he was actually hitting for 10.
Jeez. That's pretty nuts. But yeah, again, like you said, it's not too hard to get a few extra activations out of this guy, and just pumping your team, and then just pumping him up, just throwing him in the air and swinging him at your opponent. That seems pretty cool.
Oh yeah.
All right, so we are going to be talking about Pioneer. So where should we start? Should we start with the sets that are legal, or should we talk about the rules? Because there's, I guess those are one and the same. But where do you want to
go? Starting with the sets first, I think is the easiest way. So for anybody who isn't caught up on the news, Pioneer was just recently announced by WotC within the past week.
It's also a company that's based in Tokyo. They make car stereos. So don't mix it up with the Pioneer Corporation.
Yes, I think that's owned by Tamaratu or something, but
something like that. Maybe it is connected to Wizard somehow.
The Slusho, drink or whatever.
Yeah, the Exxon Chipotle Verizon company.
Yep. But yeah, so like when that got announced, it was announced right after the I think the same day as the Field of the Dead banning. And as I think tinfoil hat for me, a distraction from Oko taking over the standard format, they said, oh hey guys, look, Pioneer, which I'm not going to be mad at. I get to play, Field of the Dead in that one. Plus, I get to play, my old Merfolk deck list, or even make some changes that we'll talk to you later on for this format. So that's actually the more exciting part. But Pioneer itself is everything from M14 Return to Ravnica block all the way to the present.
Yeah. So what's funny is I've said it many times in the show. I started playing Magic in Gatecrash. So basically, this format is like my entire Magic career. I don't know who was reading my diary, but they basically just they're like, oh, Kody's whole Magic playing life is in this format.
I mean, that's honestly how I felt with Modern, because I started with the original Mirrodin block, and then when they said Modern was going to be 8th edition Mirrodin going forward, it was just like, yes, all my cards have relevancy again.
Yeah, no, it's definitely good to have in your back pocket there. And like you said, from Return to Gatecrash, or Return to Ravnica, Return to Gatecrash.
Yeah, we've gone to Ravnica like 3 times. I think we're okay with the confusion.
Yeah, they should. The next one should be called Ravnica 4, Ravnica 3.
The Ravnica Inc.
Oh. And it's back to the Ravnica. Like it could be like a time travel thing where they go back to the second time we were in Ravnica.
Jeez.
They go to the first, the second, and the third in each of this. And it's all just like is it like with the yeah, I can use my fun sensors for that. Just is it messing with the timeline and all that fun stuff? Just being crazy scientists and going like, oh, what do these two wires do?
Yep.
um, but yeah, so like there's a lot of exciting I guess opportunities for cards that were in specific sets that now could find relevancy again. There's decks that obviously a lot of people kind of started with decks that they already had in the past. So like with Merfolk, that's pretty easy to do. You just go, oh, where's my old standard deck? Here it is, and you've got a Pioneer deck. um, but we're able to look back in the history of Magic all the way back to Return to Ravnica, and we've got actually a lot of really cool cards that we can bring in for Merfolk.
Oh, definitely. That's the one thing I'm actually looking real forward to being able to combine is the upgrading a lot of the Merfolk decks with just some of the busted cards of previous standard formats. My own little pet deck that I'll be talking about is going to be a Hardened Scales Merfolk version, or a Merfolk version of Hardened Scales, I should say.
Yeah, I was building a deck.
Come on.
I was building a deck for this episode, and I was in the middle of it, and I was basically gonna just do like Simic Merfolk, but like with Coco. And then the website crashed, and I just was like, I'm not restarting this. Like,
Oh, that's unfortunate.
I did all the research, and I was like, yes, I'm building this. Oh, come on. but yeah. So do you want to? Oh, there's actually one other thing that we need to talk about the format, and there's only 5 cards banned. At the outset.
Yes, so right now, as of now, there are only 5 cards that are banned in Pioneer, and that is the 5 fetch lands from Khan's block. WotC really wants this to be a format that doesn't use fetch lands, which I'm kind of on board with. I think that's actually a pretty good move. So I share the sentiment of a lot of other content creators out there that agree with it. It makes the shuffling time, a lot less when it comes down to it, because what was it? When I was playing in Dallas for the SCG regionals, I want to say about 5 to 10 minutes of each round was just me and my opponent shuffling our decks to, deal with fetch lands, Path to Exile.
And then you handing your deck to your opponent and you shuffling your opponent's deck.
Yep. Well, which, that would only be probably about 3 minutes if we look at it like objectively. You're supposed to be shuffling within that 3-minute time frame overall.
Yeah,
I think no more than 6. If you really want to get it to where it's like both you and your opponent are shuffling like 2 minutes altogether at the beginning of each game per match.
Yeah, no, I understand, but so right now that's the only thing that's banned. Now,
break the format as early as you can.
Yeah, because basically this has led to the problem of, well, we've actually had a lot of bannings in Standard very recently.
Yeah.
So a lot of cards that were basically, oh, these are too powerful for Standard. They're back. The boys are back in town. You have your Felidar Sovereign combo, or the Felidar Guardian. With the Saheeli combo. So we have Splinter Twin in the format, basically.
Pretty much. There is the Aetherworks Marvel combo. That was the just killer combo deck of its time. You have what was it?
Field of the Dead is back already.
Field of the Dead is back. It didn't hit. No, what's dead may never die.
Yeah, so it has yet to be seen exactly how everything with this format is going to really shake out. But
what is it? Like Treasure Cruise and Dig Through Time is back.
Yep.
No, those
Yep.
were not banned in Standard, but they got banned in the other formats.
And then on top of that, we also have all of the we have all the energy cards. I guess you had already said Aetherworks Marvel, but just energy was just a pain to deal with in standard. And I did play a little bit of standard at the time, but I do remember energy just being like, like oh
Yeah.
gosh, a deck that has basically a free mechanic. Like a way to pay for things that you can't interact with in any fashion. We also have all we have looter scooters back. So
Yep, that
you
was
have
another one that got banned in recent format.
Yep. So there's a lot going on with this format. I'm really interested to see a lot of the decks because obviously none of these cards were really meant to interact with each other. Like when they were building Return to Ravnica, maybe they had some sort of idea that they were going to have another like middle ground. And obviously there were some things like Frontier that obviously didn't quite pan out. And then there's also Historic, which is another semi continuous format. However, a lot of these cards were not ever thought of as working together. So it'll be interesting to see how Wizards handles all these cards that were previously banned, but now they're like, oh, now it's fine.
Yeah. No, I think this is why they're not letting it happen. They're just letting the format resolve itself, and then they're going to see what's the most like oppressive decks in this format, and then they'll make the bans as necessary. With that being said, it's make me wonder what's going to get the axe first between what's expected for it all, because I think it was Dig Through Time, Treasure Cruise was like in the same category. Smuggler's Copter is kind of is iffy in that. I think Aetherworks Marvel was one. People are looking at the actual Hardened Scales card as being too powerful for this format, and testing like a green-black version with a buddy of mine here in my town. He was just like demolishing me with like a turn one Hardened Scales, turn two Lotleth Troll, and then he would like discard 2 cards to make it like a 6/5. Yeah, making it a 6/5, and then I also threw in that Scavenge card, which what was it, Slitherhead?
Slitherhead, yeah.
Yep, scavenges for 0. And so I mean, like he discards that and then scavenges onto it. It's a 6/5, and then if he discards another one, that's just swinging for 8 on turn 3.
That is hilarious. I mean,
Yep.
that's just crazy.
It was so much fun to see it work that way though, and it's like, yeah, I lost, but I mean, this just makes me happy.
So there's oh geez, like for some reason I can't think of the name of the card. It's from Shadows over Innistrad, and it copies all tokens that are in play. If you have a token in play, you create another copy.
Yeah, it's second something.
Yeah, I've literally been like trying to find it this whole time. But I'm interested in that with like the raptor that like makes a bunch of copies of itself. And then there's also the wolf,
Second Harvest.
Second Harvest. Yeah, so I'm interested in trying that out with the raptor that whenever it gets dealt damage, you make another one. And then on top of that, there's the werewolf that makes a bunch of other wolf tokens. So like, yeah, I think there's a fun deck there to be had. I'll probably be giving something like that a spin just to see how many tokens I can get to. But now that we've talked about the format in general, I know that there's a lot of cards that have modern, that see play in modern right now.
Yep.
In this format. So a couple highlights I think of are like, well, number one, Thoughtseize. Probably one of the most powerful cards in Magic.
Like extremely powerful, and I really think that's the whole reason they wanted to go back to Return to Ravnica, because it gave you the like Supreme Verdict, Abrupt Decay, a bunch of really good answers to what was going to be in this format, and then Theros being right after that. giving you access to Thoughtseize, so that there was virtually an answer to just about anything in every color for this format.
Yeah.
Um,
We also have
yeah.
like scavenging ooze that helps deal with a lot of the graveyard interactions. Things like prized amalgam is in this format, so being
Oh
able
yeah.
to just like knock things out of their yard is really really helpful. um, Mutavault, which is a huge boon for Merfolk players to have Mutavaults in your deck is pretty punk rock.
For sure.
Plus, Master of Waves is pretty tight as well. Yeah, we have access to a lot of really cool things, and again, basically, aside from the fetch lands, this is a very powerful card pool.
Oh, definitely. The
Siege Rhino.
yeah. Trying to
Good
avoid the
good
rhino in the
lord.
room, but
Yeah.
I've already bought my play set as well, so I get what was it? I think I broke even because I sold them off when they were at the $3 range, and then I bought them back at the $3 range. So
Young Pyromancer.
oh yeah, Young Pyromancer and Monastery Mentor, they've gone into like a Jeskai tokens list that I've been brewing up because my favorite deck in Cons block was the Jeskai Ascendancy deck.
Yeah, so you can basically just like have a really tight tokens list like that. Hey, if you just throw in green, you just put in a second harvest and wham bam, thank you, ma'am. You're off to the races.
Actually, adding green wouldn't even be for that. Green could be one of two options. You can do a tokens list, but it would be better to have Cryptolith right, which makes all your creatures tap for mana, as if they're birds of paradise. And but alternatively, a card I had forgotten about until I was watching, I think it was Pleasant Kenobi's channel. He did Sylvan Awakening, which is a 2 and a green. To cast, all your lands become 2/2 creatures with haste, indestructible, and I think trample. No.
Jeez.
Yeah, so they become creatures. They can tap for whatever color of mana they can tap for, and then whatever spell you cast is just going to untap them. You get to tap them for mana again, and you just get to go and swing in and kill your opponent with a bunch of lands.
Nice.
Yep. So I need 2 more Teferi Time Ravelers because I want that to be the biggest pain in the ass for my opponents to have to deal with, so that when I'm playing Jeskai Ascendancy combo, they can just, I can go straight into Teferi Ascendancy, however it'll work. It'll probably be Teferi. It'll probably be Ascendancy, Sylvan Awakening, untap to then do Teferi, so that I can just combo off and force my opponent to just, sit there and hate me.
Yeah, no, it does it again. There's just this format is wide open, and we've had you said 1 week of challenges so far.
Yes, there's been one. There's been one Pioneer challenge and a whole bunch of Pioneer leagues with it. However, MTG Top 8 has not put the quote-unquote format, like metagame breakdown, just yet. So we're only dealing with about 24 to 40 or 30 to 40 Pioneer decks. Which actually, looking at this, is probably going to be more along the lines of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
6,
6,
7.
7 archetypes.
Yeah.
8 if we want to have Boros and Red Deck wins be 2 different decks.
Yeah, and the other thing on top of that is all the Oko lists. Like that can be its own category.
Yeah. Well, no, this isn't standard.
Well, yeah, but still, I mean.
Oh, here we go. This is so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 7. So there's about 15 different decks in the 40 that have come out.
Okay. So do you want to dive into your list then, just to take a look at it, and because we could start with the mono blue version, or we could talk about your version, which is kind of the like a more traditional +1/+1 counters build.
Yep. Let's actually do the mono blue devotion list that did the top 4, or that made top 4 in the Pioneer Challenge this past weekend.
Mm-hmm.
So congrats to Fnatic.
Woo, Fnatic.
Someone, yeah. They are pretty prominent on the Merfolk Discord, so if you see him or if you see them on there, go ahead and congratulate them for their win. Their list is almost the same as mine. I don't want to say like pretty much like almost the same as the list that Nikachu was talking about as well. It runs 4 Siren Storm Tamers, 4 Harbinger of the Tides, 4 Merfolk Trickster, 4 Tempest Djinn, 4 Brazen Borrower, 4 Thassa God of the Sea, and 4 Master of Waves as its creature base.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if we include, so it's 28, 32 if we count Mutavaults. But then they have 4 Smuggler's Copter, 4 Quench, 20 Islands, 4 Mutavaults for the total, for the whole 60 card. And then their sideboard is 4 Negate, 4 Spell Pierce, 3 Spyglass, and 4 Tidebinder Mage. So it's like a really clean sideboard, pretty much getting 4 ofs of everything except for the Spyglass. And I think those mainly answer just about anything you don't want to deal with.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, at least in our colors.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm a big fan of Spyglass. I really do like that addition. And again, Master of Waves just kind of makes this deck pretty stupid.
Oh yeah.
Because
like my list, for example, it was a little bit more focused on the Merfolk side of things. I had Benthic Biomancer and Silvergill Adept in there to kind of get a cantrip thing going, and instead of the quenches, I was running Wizard's Retort.
Yeah. I mean, Wizard's Retort makes a lot of sense because a lot of Merfolk happen to be wizards, as we've previously established. But I mean, even with throwing in, I mean, Master Waves is a Merfolk wizard. If you Harbinger of the Tides, Merfolk wizard. It almost. I don't know. I'm kind of torn on which one I prefer being there. Is the Quench or the Wizard's Retort?
So Quench is easier to cast because, and you're a light mana leak.
Yeah.
It's pretty much like a Spell Pierce, but it hits just about everything.
Yeah.
So that so for the early game, it's great, but I think I'm probably going to err more on the side of the Wizard's Retort, mainly because of it's essentially going to be a counterspell as long as you have a wizard in play. And if we go off of Fnatic's list, he has 1, 2, 3. You have 16 creatures that count as wizards.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Yeah.
With the exception just being Thassa, Tempest Djinn, and Brazen Borrower.
Oh yeah, no, totally. I totally agree. There's just a lot going on with this deck, and it's very easy to just like drown out your opponent in a quite literal fashion with all those tokens. And it kind of I just think that it's a very viable way if you're kind of looking for something that's very similar to like being a straight up Merfolk deck. This one isn't quite as Merfolk-y as I would personally like, but it's still a good deck for sure.
Yes, this is probably what's going to be the template for mono blue like devotion.
Mm-hmm.
If all you care about is Thassa and Master of Waves kind of carrying you over to victory. If you want to be on the more Merfolk side of things, then yeah, you're going to be looking at like Benthic Biomancer, Silvergill Adept. I think being the only other two.
Mistwalker. You're talking
Mistwalker.
about mono blue.
Yeah. Well, Mistcaller is pretty good for the sideboard. Is it Phoenix is apparently going to be a thing in this format compared to, because it has Thing in the Ice with Phoenix and a lot of discard abilities. So it's going to make it almost as powerful as what Phoenix was doing in the modern format, while Faithless Looting was still legal.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, it's a fun deck.
Yep. So congratulations again to Fnatic. That is like the best thing we can hope for, because you went 8-0 in this challenge for a top 4 finish.
That's pretty great. Yeah.
Yes. So moving on, we can either do hardened scales or what I've decided to call Flash Folk. Which is kind of pretty much like the instant speed tempo-y type of thing of Merfolk, trying to get it as close to the way modern Merfolk feels with this deck.
Let's go with that, because that like you said, if it's close to, I guess the hardened scales one would just be kind of more like a standard version of Merfolk, or like how it was in standard most recently.
Yeah.
So let's start with the Flash Folk.
All right, so Flash Folk was the one that I was kind of toying around with as well. It since we don't have Aether Vial, that one was kind of like the biggest issues that I was trying to kind of figure out. And luckily, thanks to M20, Leyline of Anticipation is legal in this format. Yes. So the idea is to have one of those in your opening hand at all time. This list is running 3. You can easily make the argument for making 4. No, but creature-wise, it is a total of 26. You have 4 Benthic Biomancers, 4 Brineborn Cutthroats, which I'll talk about in a moment. That was the M20 spoiler card for the show.
Mm-hmm. A much better one than we got this time around. But
yes,
Wizards, we're still grateful. We're grateful that you thought of us. Keep doing that.
Reprint Lord of Atlantis.
Yeah, put Lord of Atlantis into Pioneer.
Yes, totally. Well, it's the only thing that's going to answer Oko.
Oh, Oko, you're ugh.
Yes. So Brineborn Cutthroats being one of the namesake cards with it due to its synergy with casting at instant speed. Just basically casting on your opponent's turn. But with that in mind, there is Silvergill Adept to kind of round out the cantrip abilities. And then we have what was it? Biomancer, Cutthroat. So Merfolk Mistbinder being the only lord that exists in this format, and then Kumena, Tyrant of Araska, being an honorary lord.
Mm-hmm.
With it, then we have Merfolk Trickster, a 4 of those, and then 3 Frilled Mystics, which is essentially counterspell on a creature. Or it's counterspell on a body, but it costs you 4 mana to cast.
Sweet.
But with Brineborn Cutthroat being in play, if you can get that in at the end of an opponent's turn, between that or Trickster, you'll always have a way of casting something at the end of your opponent's turn. You have Spell Pierce, which is basically to answer anything that might be removal heavy, for incubation incongruity to either find a creature you need, or if you have like a Cutthroat in play, to use the incongruity side to answer a creature and get a +1/+1 counter on Cutthroat. That with
the incongruity side is the side that's an instant. The first side is just a sorcery, correct?
Correct.
Okay. But with Leyline, it doesn't matter, I guess. You could cast either side.
Yeah, if you have Leyline in play, everything is going to be in at instant speed. I also threw in 2 deep root waters to kind of help out the creature um, like abilities with this. And if you're casting at instant speed and you get, at least if you have deep root waters in play, casting at instant speed, you're going to be building up a board state that can hopefully push you through to victory. You could probably run a Tempest Caller in this. What was it in this format or in this type of deck to like tap down your opponent's creatures so you can get in through that victory, or alternatively you can use the sleep sorcery, which if you cast that at instant speed, that actually is kind of funny.
Seems pretty good.
Yeah,
I like it.
Yeah, combat step, tap your creatures.
Yeah. Oh, that would be so great. Instant speed sleep. Ah. That's your opponent's creatures going to sleep. In any case, so that does look like a lot of fun, but again, that does look more like the modern counterpart. So if you're looking to, if you were like, maybe let's say you started playing in Arena or you started playing in Standard. I think the former is more likely than the latter. But so you've got most of your standard Merfolk deck still kind of kicking around in your trade binder or in a box somewhere. This is kind of your easiest transition into the format, I would say.
Yes, one of two.
Yeah, and so you have most of this deck just because of the standard cards, and you have now you have your Shocklands because of the new Ravnica set. So where are we going with this list? The +1/+1 counters list.
Okay, so the +1/+1 counters list is more in line with standard or what standard was like. The only upgrades to this deck are virtually the Hardened Scales and Nissa Voice of Zendikar.
Okay.
So creature wise, it's running 28 creatures, 3 Benthic Biomancers, 3 Jade Bearer, or not 3, 4 each of Benthic Biomancer, Jade Bearer, Mistcloak Herald, Deeproot Elite, Silvergill Adept, to make that the 24 ofs. And then the 3 ofs are Metallic Mimic and Kumena, Tyrant of Araska.
Mm-hmm.
With your curve topping out at 2 Herald of Secret Streams. Herald of Secret Streams is a more expensive, like Master of Waves, essentially, or not Master Waves, Master of the Pearl Triton, Lord of Atlantis, like giving your creatures unblockable. Whereas Herald is specific to creatures with +1/+1 counters, cannot be blocked.
Okay. Yeah, and we talked about Herald last episode because he was our random Merfolk. But yeah, this is very since Matt's not here to say it, I'll say it. It's very bread and butter. Like this is the deck. You play lots of creatures, and then you put counters on them, and then you turn them sideways. You drop a Lord, you attack. That's pretty much it. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yep. So the spells, like I was saying, so you have Nissa, Voice of Zendikar as a 3 of incubation and congruity. Comes back to either find creatures or answer a problematic creature. But then you have 4 Hardened Scales, which is one of the namesakes of this deck, because you want to have a turn 1 Hardened Scales and then do like a turn 2 Mistcloak Herald into Jade Bearer to make like Herald a 3/3 unblockable that on turn 3 is just immediately going in for damage.
Mm-hmm.
Well.
Yeah. Again, if you can curve out pretty well, I think this deck will do wonders for you. And again, this is if you've just come out of standard, this is your deck. I think at least as far as Merfolk is concerned. Like you don't need to go and buy a whole bunch of old cards for this to be doable.
Not at all. The oldest card here is the Hardened Scales. and Nissa, Voice of Zendikar, chances are you're going to have like the Botanical Sanctums, the Hinterland Harbors, Breeding Pools, um, and then I think Natural State is the only other one.
Yeah, that's the artifact or enchantment destruction spell, correct? The cost 1 green. You can destroy an artifact or enchantment.
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty good. It'll answer quite a few things out in this format. Detention Sphere being one of the bigger cards that I think I'm more worried of. Well, just having an instant speed answer to that is great.
Yes, I totally agree. Especially in a deck like this where we have so many 4-ofs, it can be really easy to get got by Detention Sphere. For those of you who are not around for Detention Sphere, it's 1, a blue, and a white, and you basically exile a creature and all other creatures with the same name. And so yeah, it can be kind of backbreaking if you drop your second lord and then they go Detention Sphere.
Oh, definitely. That's actually one of the reasons I'm not running Mistcaller in this one, or Mistbinder in this version of it, because you want to focus more on the +1/+1 counters. So that's why you have Deep Root of Lead, Metallic Mimic, and Kumena, making it the 12 quote unquote lords of the deck.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they do slightly different things, but it's kind of like varying your threats. Kind of helps, I guess, make it so that it's hard to tell what should be the thing that should be prioritized.
Exactly.
But yeah, so I think, I mean, have you gotten to play any games of Pioneer? I honestly haven't yet, but it does look like it's a lot of fun. I mean, I haven't gotten around to try it yet.
So I've not been able to play any of it on Magic Online, unfortunately. The only thing I've done was kind of like the testing with the cards that I currently own, and then waiting for some of the cards to come in to build like these versions of Merfolk.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm hoping to be able to play it in paper at some time, where if I'm buying anything online, it might be the Hardened Scales Merfolk, because that's actually the cheapest one to get into.
Okay. Yeah, and I mean, none of these decks are going to be super expensive, at least the Merfolk versions. They're not going to be super expensive, I don't think. Especially if you're already a Merfolk player, you probably already have most of these cards together.
No, I lied. Flash Folk is actually the cheapest one at like 35 tickets.
Okay. Yeah, and like I said, you probably already have your Brineborn Cutthroats and your if you were playing standard on Moto, you've definitely got most of the deck together. But things like Master of Waves, Harbinger of the Tides, like those are older cards. But again, if you were already a Merfolk player, you probably already have those for Modern, so you kind of have that room to play with them in Pioneer. So I really do like that about the format. So, is there anything else you want to touch on in this particular format before we head on to our other little segments?
Right now, no, I don't have anything that pops off on the top of my head. I think we've talked about everything that can be talked about Merfolk related with this new format.
One card that I'm actually kind of excited about, and I had in my list, is Rapid Hybridization.
Oh, yeah. Totally forgot about that.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great removals card. I mean, obviously we have Incongruity, which definitely has its place. I mean, obviously being a split card, you have both sides of that card. But Rapid Hybridization is just so cheap. I just think it's a bomb. It's really solid removal.
Definitely. It is a 1 mana Terminate in blue.
Yeah. I mean, it does give your opponent an ape, but or no, it gives him a frog. Sorry, I'm thinking of Pongify is
frog lizard.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
Pongify is basically the same card, except it gives your opponent a 3/3 ape. So yeah, it's just one of those things. That and another card I'm interested for the format is Collected Company. And that card was already very expensive and didn't need Pioneer's help to stay expensive.
Actually, yeah. What did it go up to? Because I think I saw when it went from like $10 to 20. Let's take a look at what it is nowadays. Oh, great! MTG Goldfish
Uh,
crashed again.
Goldfish. So right now it is. It shot back up to 20. It was getting down. Looks like its lowest was at $11, $11.50. And
Hmm.
it looks like you could still get them on eBay for 16 to $18. But again, those are bids, so they will definitely shoot up. But yeah, like that's just crazy. It just literally in about a day shot from almost $10 back up to $20.
Yep.
So and
I think.
online it's 11 tickets, 11.3 tickets. So
Yeah, I
yeah,
know the. What was it? 2 weeks ago, you could get it for three tickets each, and then now we're at the. It shot up to 15. Well, I think when Pioneer was announced, and then it's come down a bit since then to 11.
its lowest was 3 tickets. Yeah, and now it's back. It's gonna dip a little bit now that people aren't like running around like chickens with their heads cut off to try and get their copies. However, it's gonna stay expensive.
Yep. Bant Humans was a deck when the Khan's Innistrad block was while it was legal in that. So expect to see something like that come
Oh,
back.
Reflector Mage. That's that's in this format. Gosh. Oh, wow.
Yep. So get used to seeing something like that. I mean, I'm more worried about instant speed, like Deputy of Detention.
Oof.
That's
Woo!
gonna hurt. That's gonna be evil because that's gonna be detention sphere. Just ruins your entire like plan of attack. Um,
Yeah, you
however,
could kind of
comma.
do wizards like blue white just like bounce wizards because you have metallic mimic that can basically pump them all up and all of your creatures basically have flash. So, ooh, oh geez, I just
Yeah,
hurt myself.
Bant Wizards might be a deck. Bant Spirits is in this format, so that's going to be an uphill battle. They don't have Drog Captains, so they're going to be a little bit easier to answer.
Yeah, well, yeah, this is gonna be fun. Is I mean we've kind of been highlighting decks. Is there a deck that we have a highlight for in particular or?
Let me go ahead and take a look at the metagame, see what's coming around. So for the most part, aggro and the copycat deck seem to be the bigger thing
Yep, I
going
agree.
around. The Simic Devotion, Mono Green Devotion, is just getting crazy stupid with what they can do. Because I mean, what was it? I think the sometime the weekend after the format was announced, SCG or Star City Games did a Twitch like stream of Simic Ramp versus I think Four Color Rally.
Uh-huh.
No, like the old Four Color Rally deck from Cons Block, and it was just demolishing. The Simic Ramp deck was just demolishing the Rally deck because it would get your opponent down to a certain amount of like range, and then the guy that was playing the Simic Ramp deck would just Nykthos into a huge Hydroid Crassus, and like the only answer would have been Reflector Mage in the main board, and okay, you're just gonna let me draw more cards and gain a whole bunch of life again, sure.
Oh, Rampaging Ferostodon is in this set. It's legal.
Yes, yeah, that was another card that was originally banned and then unbanned.
Oh yeah, didn't they? Yeah, they did unban it in standard, didn't they?
They did.
I completely forgot about that because it's just like it was kind of like the but why? gif. Like why did you do this? You unbanned it for like I think it was like 3 weeks or something like that.
Something like that.
It was just something so ridiculously low that it just wasn't worth it. It wasn't worth it to go buy your playset again to just play in standard for 2 weeks. Why did you do that? But yeah, oh geez, this format's gonna be nuts. All right, so for the opening hand this week, we have the Mono Blue Devotion list. I mean, there's a few different versions of this one kind of running around, but we talked about it today, and I know Nikachu's been really big on this deck as well. We are on an uneven. This is episode 83, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so we're uneven, so we're going to be on the draw. So let me draw a hand real quick. So it looks like okay. All right, cool. So this is an interesting hand. I'm interested to hear what you have to say about this. So it is 3 islands, Siren Stormtamer, Spell Pierce, and Merfolk Trickster. Oh, I'm sorry, and Cloudfin Raptor.
Oh, okay. So this one's almost an old version of of the deck. So Cloudfin Raptor is, I think, one of the ones that's going to be cut real fast. From this deck, I think its top end is going to be a 3/4 at best, and that's if you get Brazen Borrower.
Isn't this list also running? Isn't it also running? What's it called? The Djinn that has 3 blue pips in it.
Yes. So Tempest Djinn is going to be great in this deck because it's just a huge evasive flyer and a huge evasive creature. But yeah, so going back to the opening hand, so I would keep. I would probably open with Island into Cloudfin Raptor, so that you can, when you drop Siren Stormtamer next turn, you can then swing in for damage because of the Raptor's Evolve ability.
Mm-hmm.
And what was the other one? It was 3 islands, Stormtamer,
Siren Stormtamer, Raptor,
Spell Pierce,
and Trickster.
Okay. So you could easily swing for 3 by you'll have done a total of 4 damage by turn 3 if nothing gets answered.
It's also worth noting that Siren Stormtamer is a flyer, so this is a very evasive deck. Something that we would not have known, but we know because of just the nature of the show, is the top card of our library was Brazen Borrower.
Yeah.
So we would have drawn into it and then into an island and then Master of Waves. At that, like with that information,
yeah.
I think.
Oh God, that curve is amazing. But
yeah, because you go turn 1 Cloudfin Raptor, turn 2 Siren Stormtamer, and you can keep up Spell Pierce and the Stormtamer's ability, swing for 1. Play another island, pass the turn because you've got Merfolk, attack with both. Pass a turn.
So you're dealing 3 at that point. You pass. You got the Trickster at the end of your opponent's turn. You get to evolve Cloudfin Raptor once again, and then you'll have Brazen Borrower.
Yeah.
If that was your next draw, and you get to choose to either make it a 3/1, flyer to aggro your opponent, or bounce deal with an issue that's on the board at the moment.
Yeah, bounce a Phoenix, something like that. I think, obviously, given that we wouldn't have known that information, I think this hand is actually okay still.
Yeah, it's a good aggressive curve, which by turn 3, you're going to have 4 Devotion immediately with the Raptor, Tamer, the 2 from Trickster. All you need is either a Master Waves or a Thassa to come in, and you're just, straight on the races. You've got like a turn 4 Thassa would be great because then you'll have creatures. You've got Stormtamer for protection, Spell Pierce for protection. Just keep in mind if you do um, use Storm Tamer's ability, you lose that point of devotion, which will matter for Thassa.
It'll matter for Thassa and for Master of Waves, but
Yeah.
um, but
Well,
yeah,
not so much for Master Waves, because his is a triggered ability, and if you have already gotten your creature at that point,
oh
or if you've
right,
already gotten your
right,
token at that point, you really don't care about Siren Storm Tamer afterwards. But for Thassa, you have to make that kind of decision. Um, I think you can use Storm Tamer to counter like an Oko ability, and if Thassa ceases being a creature, I think Oko it becomes an illegal target for Oko. Oh.
yeah. I mean, once it's already been targeted, the target stays, right?
Well, like the ability will then go on the stack, and then
Oh right, but then it won't
like
see it as a creature anymore, so it'll
yeah,
go.
it shouldn't see it as a creature. That's probably going to be one of the things a lot of people are going to be getting judge calls about. I should know this being a judge, so
Yep. But yeah, so again, this looks like a fun hand. It looks like a fun deck. This one is actually running rapid hybridization on the sideboard, which is pretty
nice.
cool. Oh yeah, Grafdigger's Cage is in this is an M20. Oh snap! Wow. And Nykthos Shrine to Nyx. Oh,
Yeah,
I think I'm gonna really like this format.
this format looks fun. I am a dirty combo player. They are giving me a lot of dirty combo pieces, so I intend to be part of the reason some cards get banned. But then after that, I will be coming back to Merfolk for sure.
Oh yeah, no, there's definitely time, and I think Pioneer is doing something that I think I want Historic to do. But so the reason I think it's slightly better is, well, the thing I want it to do is I want to be able to do something with my old standard cards,
Yep.
because a lot of them are just like not powerful enough for modern, but they're still cool to play with, right? But the problem
Oh
with
yeah.
Historic, and I guess kind of the problem with having Historic and Pioneer exist in the same place, is you're building for two different formats. And like Historic is cool, but you're only going back as far as Ixalan, basically that standard set. And then, but in Historic, you're going all the way back to M14, Return to Dragon's Maze, that sort of thing.
hmm
So it's, I don't know. I think it's just kind of splitting things a lot. So that's my only concern.
My hope is that the end goal with Arena is that they do a backlog at least all the way to Pioneer, which would be great. No, because then that's going to have you're going to have like a format on MTG Arena that is going to be older. It's going to bring in a lot of, I think, revenue for WotC, a lot of interest just because of it being so old of a format on the Arena like interface. My only thing is that you're dealing with a lot of bug issues, like lagging issues with Arena if you don't have like an
Ugh.
up-to-date computer.
I
Uh,
have a decent computer, and like my computer is struggling with it. It's like I mean, I don't play Hearthstone anymore because of all that Blizzard stuff. But like, if I
yep.
can play Hearthstone just fine and Pokemon just fine, and I mean, I play a few different Steam games, and all those run perfectly. And then Arena's the only thing that chugs, and it's like, come on,
Yeah.
what is this nonsense? It's not that hard of a, like, it shouldn't be this bad.
Yep. No, I agree that there's something going on, I think, within the internal programming. I'm not going to say it. I'm nowhere adept enough to say what it is. The people that are behind the scenes doing this, I mean, you guys have made a great game, a great platform and all. So keep that momentum going is all I'm saying.
Yeah, like
Uh,
I loved playing it when I could, but now I
yeah.
can't because it's so slow. And it's like I just have no desire. Like I still update it, and I come back and I try a game, and it's like, oh nope, this is still super laggy. I've tried uninstalling and reinstalling, but that's neither here nor there, I guess.
Yeah, that's probably like a different show to like rant about Arena, and all. But I mean, honestly, I don't think there's much that can be said that hasn't been said already. So, um,
yeah.
to at least end on a good note, yeah, to rehash the people behind the scenes on MTG Arena, you guys are doing great. You know, I'm not hating on the platform whatsoever. It's only made Magic more fun.
Exactly. Yeah. And you can find us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook is at FishCastMTG. If you have a question, reach out to us there. You could also reach us you can reach me on Twitter personally as not Kody Smith. Where can we find you?
So I am at Crinkle Biscuit with a K on Twitter. As soon as I start figuring out more of like the recording stuff options, I will be at Dr. Cyborg on Twitch, mainly streaming or doing like fish videos for Fishin, so we can start getting more of a YouTube presence once again.
Yeah, definitely. And I actually I forgot to show you this. My video's not even up. I got this cord to hopefully fix my mic issue. So hopefully I'll be able to start streaming and recording again. I can't do it this weekend. My parents are coming into town, so that should be fun.
Teach them how to play.
Well, they think most things are from the devil, so magic is idolatry. I've already been told that, so they're not going to come near a magic card. If you have a longer form question, feel free to email us at fishcastmtg@gmail.com. Our cover art was made by Tessa and Hunter Pruitt, and our logo and stream art was done by Ishton on Twitter, with our animated intro for our videos done by Jake Boss MTG. If you like what we're doing here, please rate and subscribe in the Apple Google Play podcast app, as well as find us on Patreon at patreon.com/fishcastmtg to help support us playing games for you to watch, to support the hosting for this very show. Thank you all for your time, and we will see you next week.
Have a great week, everybody. Field of the Dead did nothing wrong.